So this is our February series for Eat Well Cooking Club for Better Health. Most time in February, most people are not celebrating, but providing educational forum on heart disease. But it is also the National Cancer Prevention Month, Awareness Month as well. And we're going to be focusing on that in our February forum. So for those who are new with us, I want to tell you a little bit about Advocates. Advocates is a 501c3 community-based organization. We are a faith-based, non-denominational, holistic health promotion and nutrition education ministry without walls. We bring wellness programs to you where you live, work, learn, shop, play, and worship, educating and promoting health, nutrition, healthy cooking classes, wellness program, and teaching the relationship between diet, health, and chronic diseases. My name is Dale Kane, and I'm going to be your moderator today. And I'm also the founder and director of Advocates for Community Wellness. I'm a professional nutrition specialist, a certified plant-based nutrition movement cooking coach. I have additional training in plant-based nutrition program from the Center for Nutrition Studies at the Cornell University. I have over 18 years of work experience in health promotion and disease prevention sector, coordinating wellness program and culinary program throughout the city. I'm also the former Illinois State Cooking Matter Program coordinator, which is a national nutrition education cooking program for children and families. The mission of the Eat Well Cooking Club is improving eating habits for a healthier lifestyle, increase longevity, and have a better quality of life. Our goal, we have 3 goals, is to increase the consumption of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, to encourage a more nutrient-rich diet for better health, and to reduce risk factors or chronic diseases and illnesses. 3, to attain and sustain a healthy weight through the consumption of more plant-based nutrition. Our disclaimer and consent. This form is intended for educational purpose only. It is not intended to replace the advice of your medical doctor or other healthcare professionals with whom you consult. Instruction. I have shared my credentials and background, and the other presenters today will also share their credentials and trainings with you in presenting this program to you. We want to make a special note that the food that we are preparing and the recipes that you will receive, they may contain some common allergens, or you may have some sensitivity to some ingredients, but you're taking full responsibility that you will read and modify the recipes that's needed for your own personal health. And the recordings of our Zoom, all our Zoom are recorded. We upload them on our YouTube channel, but you have the autonomy to turn your video on or off at your discretion. Okay, we're faith-based, so we always like to kick off with a biblical reference. And this is coming from Proverbs 16-24, which reads, "Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones." And when I was reflecting on that, is as we're going into the 2022 and with our new normal, at least for this year, is that we want to be kind to one another. We want to speak life into each other. And with the new initiative that we are launching on our cancer awareness, is that if you know someone that is been diagnosed with cancer, coming out of treatment of cancer, it's just send a little kindness and well wishes to them in any way that you can. Okay, so we have presenters for today in our agenda. I would be providing Nutrition RX, is foods that fight for you. And in this segment, I'm just identifying one group of foods. Chef Karen will provide a culinary experience, meals that heals. And then we have a guest speaker today, Regina Hopkins. She's going to provide information on cancer facts and recommended screening. Okay, so I want to just introduce Cherie Amore Houston. She's a new addition to our team. Cherie, want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Sharia Moore Houston. I am the new community engagement coordinator. I have 20 years experience in the nonprofit sector. I like to say that I've done some of everything. I'm a former development manager, office administrator. I've worked with UIC, Salvation Army Administrative Office. So I work with local, national, and international organizations doing fundraising, which includes special and annual events, volunteer coordination, human resources. I'm self-taught in graphic design, office management. So I've done some of everything, as I mentioned. I do have my master's in nonprofit administration and 3 certificates, all from North Park University. So I'm very excited to step into this new role, add to the organization as much as possible. I'm looking forward to continuing and seeing where everything goes. Thank you all.
Cherie, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And we have Chef Karen. Can you briefly tell about your background?
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. My name is Chef Karen Crawford Moore. I'm a personal chef, and I have my own personal chef service, TLC Personal Chefing, where we bring the restaurant experience into people's homes. I also do events, and I also do what you're about to see shortly, which is teach cooking lessons. I have over 20 years of experience in food service industry, and I have a degree in culinary arts as well as certificates in baking and pastry and restaurant management.
Okay, and next up will be our very own Regina Hopkins, our Director of Health Education.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again. So let me pull up my presentation here. All righty, can everyone see my slides? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, my name is Regina Hopkins. I am the Director of Health Education and Program Manager for Advocates for Community Wellness. I've been with the organization for about 9 years now. I'm also a family nurse practitioner. I serve on the south side of Chicago. I have a master's in nursing science from San Xavier University. I have over 16 years of experience in the medical field with a focus on chronic disease management, particularly diabetes and heart disease. I'm also an international researcher. I spent some time in Bangkok, Thailand, studying adolescent health. And I'm also a published author of 2 books. The first book is SALT, Sisters Accelerating Lives Together, and As I Grow in Grace, which is a 30-day devotional and prayer guide. So as Dale stated, February is National Cancer Prevention Awareness Month. And I'm going to just give you a brief presentation today talking about some cancer facts and recommended screenings. So what is cancer? A lot of people, you've heard of cancer, you may know someone who had cancer, but just to give you a little in-depth information about how cancer starts and what it actually is. So cancer is the name given to a collection of related diseases. In all types of cancer, some of the body's cells, the healthy cells, begin to divide without stopping, and they spread to surrounding tissues. When a cancer develops, the cells the healthy cells turn into abnormal cells, and when old cells should die, or when damaged cells should die, or they should be removed from the body, they tend to survive, and then new cells that should form are not needed. So these extra cells, these unhealthy cells, begin to divide without stopping, that create growths in the bodies and different organ systems that leads to tumors, which eventually leads to cancer. So just some facts. One of the highlights of Advocates for Community Wellness is we do a lot of education in underserved communities, particularly African-American populations. So I'm going to just give a few facts on some statistics around the mortality rates of African-Americans. African-Americans tend to have the highest mortality rate compared to any other ethnic group for all cancers combined and for the majority of cancers. The death rates for most of the major cancers are higher for African-Americans when compared to whites, which contributes to the low expectancy for both African-American females and males when it comes to a cancer diagnosis. So risk factors, some potential risk factors for cancer, and this is for just cancers in general. These are not all the risk factors, but some of the common ones. A risk factor is pretty much anything that can increase your chances of getting a disease, in this case, cancer. So when we talk about risk factors for cancers in general, we look at age. As you get older, your body changes, so cells do also change with age. Alcohol consumption has been linked to cancer as well. Chronic inflammation. There's been studies that shown that when the body has a lot of inflammation, within itself, the inflammation itself begins to change the nature of a healthy cell, which makes the cell become more abnormal. And as we just heard previously, those abnormal cells can grow, which leads to additional growth and can cause cancer. Another risk factor is diet, particularly processed meats and red meats. There's a lot more studies that are coming out now that are linking processed meats to cancer. Generally speaking about the nitrites, which is a preservative that we see in processed meats, especially lunch meats. Several studies have shown that they're showing links between processed meats, which is the nitrites that are in the processed meats that are now being linked to cancer. And I put a reference here called the hot dog study of 1994. If you Google hot dog study of 1994, there's an article that speaks about there was some research that was done linking hot dog consumption to increased risk of leukemia in kids. And this was back in 1994. Unfortunately, at the time, a lot of researchers were trying to dismiss, these findings. But it's amazing that over, close to 30 years later, studies are now still showing that processed meats are being linked to cancer. Other things are environmental chemicals, things that are around us outside the air that we breathe. Unfortunately, we can't control that, but those are some links to cancer as well. Radiation exposure, viruses, HPV, EBV, HIV, HSV, Hep C, and Hep B. Hormones, particularly estrogen, which is also tied to birth control consumption. A lot of women who may consume or use birth control are unaware that estrogen has been linked. The extra exposure to estrogen from hormonal use of birth control has been linked to breast cancer, increasing chances of breast cancer. Other factors include being immunocompromised, obesity. The obesity is tied to chronic inflammation. Studies once again show that when you have excess body fat, the friction of the body fat in the body creates inflammation. And once again, that inflammation can change the nature of the cell, causing it to become abnormal. Sunlight exposure, of course, has been linked to skin cancers, tobacco consumption, lung cancer, and unfortunately, genetics, one thing that we can't change, just the genes themselves that you inherit from your parents and family members are, possible potential risk factors for cancer. I'm going to just highlight some of the recommended screenings. These are not all the recommended screenings, but the main 5 recommended screenings for cancer, starting with breast cancer screenings. If you're between the ages of 21 to 40, although there's not an actual test that's performed, but we do encourage individuals, women, to start doing self-breast exams. Because at this point, you should have an idea of how your breast feels. So if there's any type of abnormalities or changes within your breast tissue, you feel an extra lump or the tissue feels a little bit denser than normal, this is the time when you want to see your PCP to get it checked out. Now, although it's not a recommended screening per se, a test for the ages of 21 to 40, just know that if there is an abnormal finding in the breast tissue, a breast ultrasound, screening ultrasound can be offered to women under 40. If you feel anything abnormal. In addition to that, if there is some abnormal findings on ultrasound, of course, the next step is the mammogram. Leading up to the mammograms start at age 40 to 75. So every woman who's at the age of 40, if you own this Zoom meeting today, if you have not had your annual screening for your mammogram, I do encourage you to get screened. One thing that we like to push when we do these meetings is to encourage people to be educated to know that early screening and detection can save lives. In addition to that, the BRCA1, BRCA2 gene mutation testing for those individuals who have a strong family history, meaning you have multiple women in your family who have been diagnosed with breast cancer. Even if you aren't at the age of 40, you can get the gene testing. Pretty much it's a blood test to determine if you have that mutation in the BRCA1 or BRCA2 gene. Because if you do have that mutation, you are considered to be at higher risk for developing breast cancer. Okay, moving right along, colon cancer. Colon cancer screening starts at age 45 to 75. The interesting thing about colon cancer screening, years ago, the starting point for colon cancer screening was 50. But now, unfortunately, as years passed on, we have seen that individuals younger than 40 have been diagnosed with colon cancer. So the American Cancer Society has pushed the colon cancer screening back to age 45. So if you're between ages of 45 to 75, there's two different tests that you can get screened for colon cancer. The first test, which is a stool test that checks for blood in the stool. The second test I call the gold standard is the actual colonoscopy. A lot of people, when I introduce these screenings, I am a healthcare professional when working in the clinic with my patients, and I tell them it's time to get your colon cancer screening. Of course, everyone flips out. No one wants to go get a colonoscopy. They opt for the occult blood test, but I encourage them, if you have the insurance that's going to cover a colonoscopy, please get the colonoscopy, because what the colonoscopy does, although it is an invasive procedure, if you have an abnormal polyp that is found during the colonoscopy, it can be removed and biopsied. A lot of times polyps are benign, but they can turn into cancers later. So if you have the opportunity to have something removed that can be potentially dangerous to you in the future, I encourage you to get that gold standard colonoscopy. The next screening is the cervical cancer screening, which is the Pap smear. Pap smears start at age 21 up to the age of 65. Pap smears are done every 3 to 5 years now, based upon the results from your tests. You can also, for the Pap smears check for HPV. So not only are we checking for abnormal cells, but the Pap smear checks for HPV. And what is HPV? HPV stands for human papillomavirus. That is the virus that leads to cervical cancer. And just a side note, HPV is an STD. A lot of people are unaware of what HPV is or the damage that it can cause. So for women, we check for HPV because HPV is the virus that could change the cervical cells that could lead to cancer. I also put here pelvic ultrasound for endometrial cancer screening. Endometrial cancer is not something that's promoted a lot. However, in my experience, I've found a lot of women over the age of 65 who have been diagnosed with endometrial cancer. And pretty much that is a cancer inside of the uterus, the uterine lining. And one of the main symptoms of endometrial cancer is bleeding after you have gone through menopause. So if a woman has, reached the age of menopause where they have not had a cycle at all for 12 months, you're considered to be menopausal. But if 12 months have passed and you have not had a cycle, if you see any speck of blood, a drop of blood, don't think that it's your cycle coming back. That is a warning sign for potentially endometrial cancer. And to have that screen, you can have a simple pelvic ultrasound or an endometrial biopsy to determine that. Next, for the males, if we have any males on the call today, will be the prostate cancer screening, recommended at ages 40 and up. Most of the cancer societies will tell you that prostate cancer screening starts at age 45, but because African-American males are at higher risk, age limit has been lowered down to 40. So there's two ways to get tested for prostate cancer. One is a simple blood test to check PSA, that's the prostate antigen. If it's found in the bloodstream, that means you are possibly at risk of getting prostate cancer, or a digital rectal exam. Most males don't want the second option, they opt for the first one. But just know, if you are over the age of 40 and you are a male, please do make sure that you get that screening done. Last but not least is lung cancer. There is a screening for lung cancer, whether people know it or not. And this screening is offered to individuals who are between the ages of 55 to 75 with a history of smoking. And there's two options for that. It can be done as a low-dose CT scan or a chest X-ray for individuals who are under the age of 50 who have no symptoms. Okay, so just a few tips on cancer prevention. Of course, we have our chef who's going to be giving us a cooking demo today, and Dale is going to kind of share a few foods that will help to fight cancer. But if you're in the kitchen, these are some things that you can do to help prevent cancer. Eat healthy foods, mostly plant-based foods. Avoid those processed foods. Avoid added sugars. Eating meat in moderation. Finding yourself at a healthy weight, getting at a good BMI. Eat plenty of anti-inflammatory foods. Once again, like we mentioned before, inflammation is a risk factor for cancer. And limiting your alcohol consumption. Just a few foods that can fight cancer: garlic, cabbage, broccoli, kale, asparagus, tomatoes, grapes, ginger, green tea, turmeric, blueberries, strawberries, Swiss chard, lentils, chili peppers, flax seeds, lemon, licorice root, avocados, and oranges. All of these foods are delicious. So if you aren't incorporating these into your daily diet, I do encourage you to. And if you want more information on how these foods fight cancer, what compounds that are in the foods that have the cancer fighting properties, I can put the link to a website that can give you more details on each food and how they actually help to fight cancer in the body. So while you're here with us today, I do want to share that Advocates is launching a new pilot program this year. It's called Along the Journey, Breast Cancer Awareness and Survivorship Support Program. This program is sponsored by Gilead Sciences, which we are grateful for the sponsorship from Gilead. The program has two components. The first component will be triple negative breast cancer awareness in underserved communities. We are focusing on 3 communities on Chicago South Side. That's Inglewood, Auburn Gresham, and Roseland. So if you are in that area, please do visit our website for more information. And we will be doing some workshops centered around breast cancer awareness, offering some resources and tips on screenings and how to access free, low-cost mammogram screenings. The second part of the program is a survivorship piece. We are offering individuals who are living with a breast cancer diagnosis, triple negative breast cancer diagnosis, a free 9-week support course. It'll be a virtual course where we will be covering nutrition education, speaking about mental wellness, as well as physical wellness while you're going through your cancer care journey. So once again, if you're interested in learning more about this program, please do visit our website. And just a few facts and stats about breast cancer. 1 in 8 women will develop invasive breast cancer over the course of her lifetime. That's pretty high. However, Black women are more likely to develop or be diagnosed with breast cancer at a younger age. At later stages, when it is found, the breast cancer tends to be more aggressive in African-American women when compared to white women. Another statistic, Black women have a lower 5-year breast cancer survival rate when compared to white women. And also Black women are 40% more likely to develop breast cancer. So definitely, our goal is to encourage you to be aware of risk factors, also get those screenings done, seeking screenings for breast cancer at an earlier time versus waiting till a later time, because when you wait till for a later time, unfortunately, you get diagnosed late if you are at risk for breast cancer and the outcomes aren't the greatest. So if you want to take a snapshot, this is a flyer here that we have circulating about our program. Once again, we're offering some free supportive services to individuals who live in Auburn, Gresham, Inglewood, and Roseland. You can contact me via email if you want more information. That's aurahopkins@a4cw.org, or you can visit our website to read more about the program. It has been great meeting with you guys. I hope you are able to take something away from this presentation. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you.
Hopkins. Is Ms. Hopkins still on?
Yes.
I looked at your recommendations for when you should get the colon cancer, when you should get the breast cancer, when you get lung cancer. The one common theme I saw in that was 65, 50 or whatever to 75. Mm-hmm. Now, I actually have been doing my pap smears since they were recommended. And I went to my doctor and I'm like, okay, it's time for a pap smear. And she said, because I was over 65, I didn't need a pap smear. And I looked at her, I'm like, So if I have cervical cancer and you don't do the screening, I just die. And that's the way I felt. Same thing with certain other tests. After a certain age, you just say, well, we don't bother to screen. And I need to know why is that? Because I'm sorry, my grandma was 98 years old. We gonna scream until I'm gone. So why do they just say after a certain age, you don't do screenings anymore?
Okay, that is an excellent question. So in particular for cervical cancer, the screenings are pretty much centered around research. All screenings are centered around research. So at the age of 65, it's recommended that you can stop screening if you have had a certain number of pap smears before the age of 65 that were all normal. Just once again, the Cervical cancer is linked to HPV exposure. So generally research states that a woman by the age of 65 has a very, very low risk of being exposed to HPV, which is the virus that can lead to cervical cancer. So if you have, if you're at the age of 65 and you've had, at least 3 or 4, your previous 3 or 4 screenings before that have been all negative, then according to research, you are at a very low risk of even developing cervical cancer. So research recommends that the screenings are stopped at 65. It's not the provider, it's the recommendations from the American Cancer Society and also from ACOG.
Okay, so what's up next is Chef Karen, and we are going to pin her with your pin. And please engage in the chat, and Regina, you can engage with them, and then we can review in the after chat, okay? The after talk, I'm sorry. That was created by one of our community members, CJ, and it's been going strong ever since. Okay, Karen.
All right, so good morning again. And as Dale stated, we're focusing on those cancer-fighting foods. And this week in specific, we're focusing on berries. And we know all the berries are good for you. Our speaker just mentioned blueberries and strawberries. We'll be using blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries in today's recipe. So how many of you like pancakes? If I could hear, or if somebody says yes. And also, my second question is, how many of you have made your own pancakes from scratch? Not the box of powder where you just add some water to it, but you actually put all the
every
ingredients
time.
together.
I suck at making pancakes. I honest to God, every time I make pancakes, they come out so watery or thin. Like, I just don't know.
Okay, you're gonna get some chef tips today.
You're gonna get some tips today, and that's funny because I actually like my pancakes a little thinner, but this recipe is the boast is that these are nice fluffy pancakes, which is probably what most people like.
And there are plant-based. There happen to be vegan. I don't like to say vegan, but they're plant-based.
They are plant-based. There's no eggs. I know a lot of people think, oh, I'm giving up dairy and eggs, so I can't make pancakes. That's not true. So I'm gonna start actually with the pan that I'm gonna be using. This is a griddle, and this is the griddle that came with the stove, but you can also purchase a griddle to go on top of your stove, and then you just control the heat with the burner dial. You can also buy an electric skillet. You could also use just a simple nonstick skillet. So instead of spraying the surface, I'm just gonna drizzle just a little bit of avocado oil on the pan, and this pan has been heating up for a few minutes since we got started. And I just take my spatula and spread that oil around instead of using the aerosol spray. So nice and hot, a little bit of oil just to keep, prevent the sticking. So back over to our ingredients. So instead of, and I've been making pancakes from scratch for a while. Here I have 2 cups of whole wheat flour. And to that, I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and a half teaspoon of salt. And a bonus question, who knows how many teaspoons it takes to make a tablespoon? Anybody? Nobody?
3.
I know Dale does because she cooks all the time. I think she cooks in her kitchen more than I cook in my kitchen. So anyway, very good. So they always say I don't know why, what the deal is lately. They say 4 teaspoons instead of, I would say 1 tablespoon plus a teaspoon, but either way, it's the same.
That must be the new math.
The new math, maybe it's
New
easier
math.
just to count, just to use the one measure instead of, oh, I need a
Actually,
tablespoon and a tea.
actually, I put it to the test. I put it to the
Oh,
test.
you
Test
compared
it.
them? You compared them?
I measured
The
it out.
measurements?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
interesting. And it was, did it
I didn't believe
equal
it.
out?
No, because I didn't believe it.
Because you didn't believe it. Well, there we have it. Okay, so the other ingredient, one of the ingredients that is kind of a hurdle in baking in general, as well as pancakes, is eggs. Okay, eggs aren't just used as a main ingredient. They're used in so many recipes as a binder. But and we've talked about this before. So I'm using a flax egg. So I'm using flaxseed meal that's already ground. I have 2 tablespoons in here, and then I'm adding 6 tablespoons of water, and that's going to need to set a little bit. Maybe I should have done this first. So the formula for if you want to replace a recipe that has eggs is, for every 1 egg, use 1 tablespoon of flax meal and 2 tablespoons of water. Then you stir that together and you let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then it thickens up. So it still binds your recipe together. So while that's doing that, I have here 2 cups of almond milk, unsweetened. For this recipe, I could have used vanilla, maybe would have been kind of interesting too. There's my almond milk, and then here I have some unsweetened applesauce. That's also going to add some helps bind the ingredients together. And then I have a tablespoon of avocado oil. And then the recipe calls for a half teaspoon of vanilla, which I'm gonna eyeball. And I believe in using the pure vanilla, not the vanilla imitation, which is, got some unnatural things in there. And I think it tastes better. So, does anybody have any questions? And I will address your thin pancake issue. Just add a little bit. I would suggest adding just a little bit more flour or pancake mix to it until it's the right consistency that you want. And then, of course, the reverse would be true. If you think your batter's too thick, you can thin it out with milk or almond milk or water. Some type of liquid.
Okay. So
So it is kind of and I've had recipes where, it's like I consistently have to add, adjust, tweak. So it's not, always a hard and fast rule, or it's not always working out exactly to plan. Sometimes you have to make adjustments.
Okay. So you so if it's thin, just add a little bit more batter to it, just to thicken it up.
Flour or
I'm sorry, flour. Okay. Now, do you use oil or butter so it won't stick to the pan?
You're talking about for the pan,
like when you cook it? Yeah.
Yes. So I use, and we can come back over here, but I used oil. Well, number one, this is a plant-based demonstration, so I wouldn't be using any dairy products. But if I was demonstrating this for any group, I wouldn't use butter because it has a what's called a low smoke point. So it burns very easily. So you want to use oil that has a high smoke point. So avocado oil or olive oil, the regular olive oil or canola oil, most of those. And now they're even saying on some of them, you know, how hot of a temperature it can tolerate. So you, whenever you're cooking at a high heat, you wouldn't want to use butter. Bottom line. So hope that helps. All right, so I am going to go ahead and add my flax egg. It's thickened up a little bit to the rest of my liquid ingredients. I'm going to stir those together.
That's interesting. I've never heard of flax egg. Where do you find it at?
And then I'm going to come back to my bowl of dry ingredients, and I'm going to add the wet to the dry. And you don't want to try to get like absolutely every bump out of the batter. Expect it to be just a little bit lumpy, but you do want to make sure that the ingredients are well incorporated. Okay. Yeah, this is a good, and I would say this is a good consistency. It's not super thick, but it's not thin either. And again, you know, you adjust according to your own taste. If you like it thinner, you can thin it out with liquid. If you want it thicker, add more flour. So now I'm going to fold in. So this is a spin. This is actually a berry granola pancake. So here I have a cup of granola, and I made this granola. You can also, of course, purchase granola over the counter. If you would like my recipe for granola, you can go to my Facebook page and get that information at TLC Cooks, TLCCOOKS. So here's a cup of my granola, and I've got some walnuts, and I've got some cranberries in there as well. So I'm going to fold that in. Okay, and then
Chef Crawford, someone asked, they said that the flax egg sounds interesting. Where can they purchase the flax egg? You mentioned.
Okay, well, you make the flax egg at home. You just buy flax seed. Here, this is what I use. This is Bob's Red Mill, and it would be in your baking aisle. So it would be probably near your flour, your baking powder, all of that. All the major grocery stores are carrying this now.
It's usually in the gluten-free area.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, with the oatmeals. And in the recipe, she does give you the formula, and we will review the recipe afterwards. And we didn't get the recipe out in advance, but you will get it afterwards.
Thank you, Dale. So also I'm adding a cup of fresh blueberries. I'm folding that into the batter. And I don't know how many of you have had blueberry pancakes before, but they're a great addition to your pancakes. Okay, so we're ready. Try our first pancake. And like they say, the first pancake is usually the worst pancake. It's kind of a little bit of a experimentation on timing. So I'm gonna come over here to my griddle. I'm gonna bring my batter.
That's a tip too, to get your pancakes all the same size. I know earlier in life, they would never be the same size. But when I started, I use a scooper. I bought different size scooper, like the ice cream scooper, like a 2 ounce, 4 ounce, and even a measuring spoon would do too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are measuring. This is my favorite measuring cup set. They go as small. It goes from 1/16 of a cup all the way to 1 cup, and they're magnetic, so they stick together. But this is a 1/4 cup measure that I'm using. And then things you want to look for as it's cooking, you should notice now, probably more so with a white cake batter than a whole wheat batter. This is a little denser than traditional pancake batter, but you'll start to see bubbles at the top, several bubbles at the top. And you'll also see it starting to kind of harden and set up around the edges, or you might even see it start to change in color, brown up a little bit around the edges. So if anybody else has questions, this would be a great time to answer some questions. Okay. Has anyone other than Dale had a plant-based pancake before? Nobody? No one?
I have. I'm not sure if I've had oatmeal pancakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've incorporated a lot of the berries in that as well. And it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm really going to try that.
Was this at a restaurant or you made it yourself?
I made it myself.
Oh, okay.
It was delicious.
It was delicious.
It was good.
And you used oatmeal?
Oatmeal, yes.
Chef,
Go ahead.
We have a couple of questions. One person asked, is applesauce a substitute for butter in the pancakes? Can applesauce be used instead of butter to keep them?
Yeah, I think it's also, like a fat-free option for in baking, because I know a lot of like cake recipes, they will use the applesauce. So I do believe it is a substitute for the fat portion, because obviously there's no fat. I mean, we put a little bit of oil, but yeah, in a traditional pancake recipe, you probably put maybe a whole, a stick or half a stick of butter melted into your recipe, or oil.
And someone else asked, does the granola make the pancakes crispier, or is it used to enhance the flavor of the pancakes?
I think it's for flavor. And this is, a healthy recipe and just a way to get more fiber, just a way to get more fiber in general.
And it would solve that, having the pancake to be runny, a little granola, that'll thicken it up, right?
Right. Adds to the thickness.
Mm-hmm. Crunchiness too, a little crunch to it. Okay, so while
right. So something different.
So while you make the pancakes and she's going to plate everything, we're going to come back to the chef and we're going to continue with the presentation. We can, Chef, can you review the recipes as you are finishing up on the pancakes?
Yes, yes. So there's today's recipe with the berry granola pancake. So we know we're using whole wheat flour instead of white flour. We have the flax egg instead of traditional egg. We're using almond milk instead of whole milk or cow's milk, and then the granola and the avocado oil. So we're mixing our dry ingredients together, and we're mixing our wet ingredients together, and then we add the wet to the dry.
And I just want to add these tweaks. Maybe what we'll do going forward, when we're taking something traditional like pancakes, and then we'll highlight where the tweaks are to make it vegan or plant-based. Okay. And so you want me to finish the slides? Because time check.
Yes.
Okay. So a few other ingredients is the vanilla extract. We have the granola with fruit and nuts, fresh berries, blackberries, and raspberries, or you can use any combination berries that you like. I like the fact that she used 3 because there's power in the number 3. And here's the formula for the flax eggs, which you're mixing 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed with 6 tablespoons of water. And you can let it stand for five minutes. Okay. And you saw the process that she went to, but you would get the full recipe that I'll send out. And next, we're going to move into the nutrition aspect of the program. Today, we're going to just discuss the many benefits of eating berries. Here again, we're focusing on a specific food group. In October, we did a more broader view of cancer-fighting foods, and you can review that on our YouTube channel. The second thing we're going to discuss is how much should I eat daily or on most days? And thirdly, why should I eat a variety? Okay, so berries are delicious, okay, and they provide a number of impressive health benefits. They're loaded with antioxidants. Research has shown that blueberries, blackberries, raspberries have the highest antioxidant activity next to the pomegranate. Later, I'm going to show you a slide, it's called a nutrition profile, but those are the vitamins or minerals that may be in it, but they also contain phytochemicals as well, which is a variety. In a previous form, we just took a profile of a cherry and there were over 50 chemicals. These are biochemicals that are in a cherry and that are in other foods that we eat that provides life to our body, to our temple. So antioxidants reduces oxidative. That's if you have an apple and then it's mixing with the air, the oxygen, it turns brown. It's almost like it's dying. The cells are dying. And our body is constantly bombarded with that, with the water we drink, the air that we breathe, and definitely with the food that we eat. And so these antioxidants that are in fresh foods, like berry, because they're packed with it, it reduces it. And I'm hoping to do next week to show you a little demonstration of how that works. Fast forward, it improves blood sugar and insulin levels. It's high in fiber. It provides many nutrients. I'm going to show you a profile next. It helps fight inflammation. We want to lower that in our body. It may help lower cholesterol levels. Anytime it's made, there are some research behind all this that I'm saying on healthline.com, Google berries, and it may be good for your skin. We know that because of the antioxidant. It is good with the vitamin C. It may help to protect against cancer. There's research out there that supports that. It may keep your arteries healthy. There's support out there in research, and it provides many nutrients and complements any diet plan. I don't know any diet plan that says you can't eat berries. Okay, so here's an example. This is just a simple black currant, and 100 grams is a little less than a half a cup. But the one thing I want to point out is just vitamin C. 201% of your recommended daily allowance, just eating a handful of black currant. And that's just one of the ingredients, okay? How much and why? So it's a handful a day, and that's about a half a cup. You want to eat it at least 3 to 5 times a week. If you are in a cancer diagnosis, I would go more towards every day, get it in your diet, put it in your cereal in the morning, have a side dish of berries on the side at lunch, add it to your salad in the evening, but get it and make your dressing out of berries. I've done pomegranate vinaigrette. Just find ways, and we'll help you find ways to get it in your diet. There are 27 varieties of berries, but do you know we only eat a handful? We only eat a small spectrum of that. So these are some berries by, I call any other name. If you can take a snapshot of this, if you can see them, you can eat it in many forms and teas. You can drink it as tea, like I have some blueberry tea and some other types of berry teas. You can definitely eat them fresh. You can buy them frozen. You can, there's many forms right now that you can buy them dry. There's a variety of ways that we can work it into our diet plan. And then this is just another quick berry fruit tart. It's easy as a breakfast. It's using whole wheat bread. Okay. In this example, it has cream cheese. Mine's, I use nut butter. I like almond butter versus the peanut butter. But you just spread it generously on it, and you mix your berries on it. On here is an open face, but when I eat mine, I eat it with another slice on top. And I was just experimenting. I experiment in my kitchen, like I get an idea, like, let me try this. And it was good. It was delicious. And I tested on with kids when I'm doing cooking classes for kids, and it was a thumbs up for them as well. And then next, as Regina had mentioned, we'd like for you to stay tuned about our Along the Journey. We're going to be launching it in March with our cancer awareness and kicking it off in April. But we want you to help us to get the word out. And so we want to stay connected with us by telephone, by email, by our website. We want to invite you we did a refresh on our website, thanks to Regina, our Director of Education, and we'd like for you to visit it. We're still doing some tweaks on it, but it is presentable, and we like for you to tell us how you like it, and then definitely follow us on Facebook. You may have seen some new posts from us. I want to thank Sharia Moore that is helping us engaging new people to our community through our social media. She's done some great works just in a few weeks that she's been with us. So that's at Advocates for Community Wellness and at Eat Well Cooking Club for Better Health. And then also follow us on Instagram. And I want to thank you for joining us. I think we did pretty good. It's actually 11:58. We got 2 more minutes. And so we can continue that conversation that, Johnny, if you want to lead with that. Regina, can you stay on for a few more minutes?
Yeah, and I also just want to point out in the chat section, I did put a link for those cancer fighting foods. It's the full link. So if you go to the chat, you'll see there's a link from the American Institute of Cancer Research. It highlights multiple foods that you should be eating to fight cancer, also foods to avoid. And if you click on the picture for the actual food, it'll take you to another link that gives you a full description as to why these foods have been selected as cancer fighting foods and what are the compounds in the foods that help to fight cancer. So it's a pretty good resource to look at. So I believe it was Miss Johnny Williams. We were talking about Why does screening stop at a certain age? Are you still on, Ms. Williams?
And I want to say before we start, we're officially completed. I'm so pleased that we ended on time. And for those who wants to stay with us, we invite you to with the after talk. Yes.